Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very ideal and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
all right, it's another beautiful day, another great opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, national development, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're going to wrap up our conversation as regards to World Economic Conference taking place in Davos, and all the highlights, some of the key things that were discussed at the forum. We're going to do a wrap up on that. We're also going to look at news trending across the world. We call it global trends. These are more other things we're going to look at today. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation by going on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, using the hashtag Early Exchange. I'm not alone. Blessing is here. Blessing, good morning. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank God it's Friday. So
yeah.
Say happy weekend in advance.
Great.
And it's nice to know that you could join us this morning on Early Exchange, and you know that today's edition is going to be wonderful. As always, now we're doing a recap of the issues talked about this week, and this week we'll focus on the Davos conference in Switzerland. So many things to look at, and it will be an interesting one for you. We ask that you stay with us. Let's move over now to the news studio, where Grace Komalafe is waiting to bring you news update. Hello, Grace.
Hello and welcome to the news update on Souq News. I am Grace Komalafe. The latest batch of U.S. Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, ETFs, has experienced robust investor interest in the initial 3 days of trading, amassing $1.9 billion across 9 funds tracking the spot price of Bitcoin. Major players like BlackRock and Fidelity have been significant beneficiaries of these inflows, while those figures surpass the early days of the ProShares Bitcoin strategy, which secured a record $1.2 billion post-launch in 2021. The new ETFs fell short of the most optimistic estimates. Despite Bitcoin's recent 8% decline since January 11, anticipation surrounding SEC-approved ETFs has persisted. And away from that, robotics startup Figure, the first of its kind AI robotics company, says it has signed a partnership with BMW Manufacturing to display its humanoid robot in the car maker's facility in the US, while the number of humanoid robots to be deployed at BMW's remains disclosed. The collaboration will initiate the small quantity, potentially expanding based on performance outcomes. Over the next 12 to 24 months, Figure's humanoid will be integrated into various manufacturing processes, including the body shop, sheet metal, and warehouses, following specialized training. CEO of Figure, Brett Adcock, stressed the safety aspect of their robots working alongside humans and considered BMW's collaboration as a significant validation for their work in automation within manufacturing. The use of humanoid robots in the automotive industry for repetitive and hazardous tasks is not new, with companies like Tesla unveiling their latest humanoid model, Optimus Gen 2. And in the Middle East, Dubai's toll gate operator Souq company has revealed plans for the addition of 2 new Souq toll gates in the city. These upcoming gates will be strategically positioned at the Business Bay crossing on Al-Khal Road and Al-Safa South on Sheikh Zayed Road, situated between Al-Medan Street and Al-Sheikh Street. To this end, the Roads and Transport Authority has officially tasked Souq with the installation of these gates, emphasizing their role in optimizing traffic flow and alleviating congestion on vital routes within Dubai. And now, Canada has officially transferred control of Nunavut's vast reserves, including gold, diamonds, iron, cobalt, and rare earth metals, to the territory. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau signed a revolutionary agreement with Premier PJ Akeagok in Iqaluit, granting Nunavut the authority to collect royalties instead of the federal government. Covering 810,000 square miles with a population of 40,000, Nunavut is strategically significant due to climate change, opening up shipping lanes and resources. The track of infrastructure and high operating costs pose challenges, but this move aims to empower Nunavut's residents to manage their natural resources, particularly crucial minerals for battery production. And finally, the YouTube and Spotify technology are following Netflix International by opting out of Apple's forthcoming mixed reality headset. In a recent statement, YouTube clarified that it has no immediate plans to develop a new app for the Apple Vision Pro, and its long-standing iPad application won't be compatible with the device, at least in the near term. Similar to Netflix, YouTube advises users to access its content through a website browser, suggesting Safari on the Vision Pro for optimal viewing. And with that, we wrap it up, and stay tuned for more conversation with Blessing Aiche and Femi Ayodele. I am Grace Komalafe. Good morning.
All right, thank you, Grace, for the news update. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll have proper conversation as regards what is taking place in Davos, talking about the World Economic Forum. Stay with us.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Souq, in 1977. The theater holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Souq, in 1977. The theater holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Souq 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of large green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you're still there with us. Our focus today is to do a recap. We're looking at the World Economic Forum. We're going to do a recap of the highlights of the things that have been talked about in the course of the conference. The conference started on Monday. It's the 54th edition of the conference. And the theme for this year conference has to be Rebuilding Trust. There has been this concern globally about the issue of trust when it comes to investment, when it comes to business relations. And that was put on the table in the course of this conference. There are several issues that are being looked at. You have 4 agendas for the meeting. The first one has to be the issue of global security, whereby the issue of the regional conflict taking place in the Middle East was at the front burner. And then reference was made also to the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. And also the participants also raised the importance of paying attention to the security crisis in Africa and other parts of the region. These are some of the issues we'll be looking at today. Our guests will be here shortly to review, some of the agenda for the meeting and the submissions made as regards climate change, artificial intelligence, and also the issue of driving global growth and also creating job opportunities. But let me bring the conversation to Blessing. The conference has been so strategic. It's the 54th edition for this year. It started on Monday, and then it has rounded off the official sessions, officially, and now several submissions are made for you. What do you think is the high point for you, the course of the forum or the conference?
I think all of them, all of the key areas that were chosen as focus for this year, beginning from the first day, which centered on achieving security and cooperation in a fractured world. Because like I mentioned, that without security, you can't be talking about economic development, and that the economic outlook for this year isn't looking so good. So you need, or the world needs security to be handled, needs cooperation for anything good to happen in the global economic space. And then for climate, which we talked about yesterday, finding long-term strategy, long-term solutions for climate, nature, and energy. These are also important because we just have one Earth to live in, and it must be in a very habitable condition for every one of us. And now the word has moved from talking about climate change to climate deaths, and also the economic losses that comes from the effects of the climate change. And so every part of it is important. Is it for the aspect of growth, jobs, you know, in the future of work, looking at new ways that work can be improved and that growth can happen with AI, AI innovations and all. So these are all very important because it is changing the way we live. It is changing the way business is done. It is changing a lot of things. And so every part of it, I can't pick one and say that's the highlight for me or that's the high point for me, because I think they all matter and they are all connected.
All right, let's see what our guests will have to say about this. We're being joined by Desmond Majekodumi. He is the chairman of Lekki State Urban Forest and Animal Shelter Initiative. Desmond, glad to have you joining us on Early Exchange this morning.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
If you can hear me, Desmond, glad to have you joining us on Early Exchange.
Yeah, great to be with you.
All right. Now,
great to join you. I hope you can hear me.
I'd like to do a recap of some of the highlights of the conference, you know, the Davos conference. We'd like to do a recap with you. Let's start with the theme for this year's conference. It's the 54th edition of the conference. The theme for this year is rebuilding trust. How would you say that looking at all the given challenges, you know, regional conflicts that are taking place here and there, especially looking at the one happening in the Middle East, what do you think will be the proper way to rechannel these things for proper trust to exist between nations? And what's your take on the argument that there has never been trust in the first place? And now that the conference is over, what do you think should be the starting point for participants to ensure that you start rebuilding trust among nations?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The starting point has to be that humanity has reached a certain turning point that is unprecedented in the history of humanity. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the capacity of totally wrecking the very life-supporting ecosystems of this incredible planet called Earth. As our friend with you there said, is our only home. And I think that's a very solid statement, because with the space exploration capacity that we've been able to develop over the decades, we're now able to assess the ability of hundreds and hundreds of millions of other planets in the various galaxies, not just our galaxy. And none of them have the capacity to support life the way this incredible, miraculous planet Earth does. However, we have developed our technology over the decades, in a way, even over the centuries, and deployed it in a totally irresponsible manner. The technology has evolved, but humanity, sadly and tragically, has not evolved enough to utilize the technology responsibly enough. And we're now seeing the effects of that. So much of that technology is deployed for warfare, which is nothing new. Human beings, mankind has always been fighting themselves over territory, over disagreements, over this, that, and the other. And in the old days, with the kind of warfare technology we had, we couldn't inflict too much damage, even though we did. You know, but how many people can you destroy? How many children can you kill with bows and arrows? But then it evolved from just using bows and arrows. It evolved into deploying explosive devices. And it rapidly continued evolving and evolving into the kind of bombs and weapons of warfare, artificially intelligence-guided weapons that we're now deploying now, causing terrible, horrendous havoc. And worse, in that havoc is destroying children's lives, children. And as if that wasn't bad enough, irresponsible use of the technology and deploying it totally irresponsibly, is now impacting very negatively, very, very negatively on the planet's eco-life support systems. Isn't it ironic that this Davos conference comes right on the heels of the official declaration that 2023 has now been acknowledged as the hottest year that humanity has ever recorded since we started recording temperatures about 150 years ago. But with scientific experiments and studying geologic forms and ice caps, deep ice samples, the indication is that the Earth has never reached this temperature since possibly 150,000 years. And what is more scary is that scientists told us that this is exactly what would happen. They mentioned this about 30 years ago, that if we continued using our technology in this horrendously irresponsible way, this is what would happen. And you see, this Earth is, it's got a function. It functions under certain temperature variances. And those same scientists that warned us 30 years ago that this would happen, they're also using their technology and responsibly this time to inform us that if we continue this way for very long, we're going to reach what they call tipping points, whereby we'll trigger off processes where the heating, the global warming, the heating will become spontaneous, and eventually, it would become unstoppable with catastrophic consequences. So, yes, trust. Well, how can you trust a system that is hell-bent on self-destruction? And those are my words. Those are the words of somebody far, far more knowledgeable than me, the words of the Secretary General of the United Nations, who said, mankind is waging war against nature, and this is suicidal, because nature always fights back. Remember, nature is bound by certain specific laws of action begetting reaction. So yeah, it's definitely, I think the trust deficit is at its lowest ebb now, and it's about time that we started having a renewal of our minds and a different attitude altogether. Otherwise, consequences will be terrible.
All right, like you rightly pointed out, that 2023 was recorded as the hottest year ever, where the Earth's temperature increased by 2 degrees Celsius. And at Davos, different talks have been ongoing as to long-term strategy to combat the effects of climate change and the environmental challenges. Now, one of them is the transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. How soon can that happen? Do you see that happening all over the world? Or do you think it's going to be one part of the world being able to achieve that, and then the dependence on fossil fuel continues in other regions?
Yeah, that's a key question, because it is the burning of this fossil fuel that is mainly responsible for this temperature rise. This temperature rise that has brought us to the brink of an unstoppable destructive process. And again, I have to reiterate, it's not just speculation. Again, let's remind ourselves, 30 years ago, the scientists with pretty good technology, they informed us that we would overheat the world, we'd take it above its average temperature. And even like a human body, if your temperature goes above 1 degree, you're not very well. By the time it goes 1.5 degrees, let alone 2 degrees above average, like Earth's temperature did in November 2023, 2 degrees above average in the human metabolism, it's, you're ill. Okay, so scientists 30 years ago told us this is what would happen. And over those 30 years, they've been able to develop the technology far better. And they're extremely concerned. And because of this effectiveness of the technology, they've been able to see that, if this sustains much longer, this which is being caused mainly by the burning of this fossil fuel, if it continues much longer, we're going to create a situation, as Secretary General of UN said, it is suicidal. He likened it to being in a vehicle heading towards a cliff, okay? A precipice in a vehicle. A precipice is ahead of you in that road. Maybe there was a bridge, the bridge has collapsed. You, the passengers, are aware that the bridge has collapsed. The driver of the vehicle is aware that the bridge has collapsed. And inside that vehicle, you have all your loved ones, your children, all your loved ones, you're in there. But Secretary General said that we're heading towards this precipice. And wait for it. Our foot is still on the accelerator. Okay, and that's a powerful analogy to what happened in 2015. And the Davos conference right after that in 2016 also addressed this issue that, oh, wow, we're causing far too much pollution, burning all this fossil fuel is really, really causing terrible problems. And at the COP conference in Paris 2015, most of our world's leaders were there, and they all said categorically, we're going to reduce the burning of fossil fuel. We shall reduce the CO2 that is causing this problem. And in 2016 in Davos, it was more or less agreed by the world business leaders that, yeah, this is what would happen. We will reduce it. We will reduce it. However, the process of reduction now raised a major conflict because so much of the fossil fuel that is being burnt is generating tremendous amounts of money and profit. And here's where the conundrum is, to get to the answer of your question that can it be stopped? Will it be stopped? When will it be stopped? The conundrum is that our economic system is based now on profitability, which, you know, it makes a lot of sense. You want to run a business to be profitable. But what has happened is that the profitability factor of it now has taken precedence over everything. And we're now putting profit ahead of people, ahead of planet. And again, to quote the Secretary General of the United Nations, he said it's no longer tenable that our economic system, our capitalist system, and I personally feel that of all the isms, you know, capitalism is the one that has brought more benefits and more development to more people. But it has to be tempered with a humanistic attitude. And there has to be a paradigm shift to put people first. And then the planet, which is the people's life support system, second. And then the profit. Because if you're putting profit ahead of people's welfare, which is what is going on by the continuous deployment and use of this fossil fuel, which is, it gives off toxic gases. Look, if I brought a generator into your studio there and I turned it on, would you stay in the studio? You wouldn't, because you know what would happen. the burning of that gas, of that petrol, or even diesel, it will kill you. And by the way, several millions of people, some statisticians say that it's even up to 7 million people, maybe 6, maybe 8 million people around the world die every year as a result just of breathing in this toxic substance. Yeah, it's deadly. It's absolutely deadly. But if 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 we're so caught up in it because it drives so much profit, then I'm sorry to say, with much apology, what's the difference between that and the armed robber who, for profit, will take a gun and do something terrible? I think the only difference is that we're able to appeal to intelligent people and to people with good hearts and maybe a little bit of myopic, and hopefully that appeal will get across. And this is what's going on in Davos right now. It's very, very encouraging. And I see a very, very fast transition away from burning the fossil fuel, which, by the way, it's far too valuable a resource to burn anyway, because it is a limited resource and it is giving us so many other benefits in other areas. All we need to do is use those other areas more responsibly. Plastic, for instance, and many, many other areas, lubricants. It's a useful product, far too useful to burn. So yeah, will we transit? We will. I believe we will. How quickly it will be is the question. And we need to alert people, maybe with wonderful organizations like this, that it must be done very, very quickly, no matter the cost. Because as one young lady from Uganda said, we cannot drink oil, we cannot eat coal, we cannot breathe so-called natural gas, and what good is money on a dead planet? God forbid that we shall kill our planet.
Interesting. Let me point your attention to the report released from WEF, even though we talked about it yesterday, but it's also important to bring it to you. According to the report, by the year 2050, climate change is going to cause additional deaths of about 14.5 million. And the world is also going to record economic losses of about $12 trillion. I would like you to shed more light on this. How will this play out, and what can be done to ensure that this imminent danger is being curtailed?
Yeah, it's actually, that's a very conservative estimate, because it gets to a point where you're now treading into really unknown territory in terms of the rapidity of the degeneration of the Earth's life support systems. And it could be a lot worse than that. It wouldn't be better than that. It could be a lot worse. So the transition has to be done very, very quickly. And in order for that to happen, we as human beings, as people, we must have a renewal of our minds. We must, because it's this old, I can call it the old sort of mindset of being driven by sense gratification, by being driven by issues of the flesh, wanting to enjoy more and wanting to enjoy too much more. And it's like a drug. It's addictive. So you have a nice car, but it's not nice enough because the system itself is persuading you that you need to purchase more. You need to expand the business process. So you need to get the nicest car, the latest model. And then, well, you don't have two, you only have one. Well, you need to get two cars. You need to expand. You need to, it's a process that is very, very, very difficult to get a handle on. But the reality is that we must get a handle on it. Otherwise, we're going to wreck the very system. I mean, those statistics that you reeled out now are very alarming. But as I said, that's a very conservative estimate. It could be a lot worse because we're triggering off processes that can cause catastrophic weather occurrences. When you're heating the ocean, and the ocean is the receptor of a lot of the heat, a lot of the global warming. The oceans of this world have never had this amount of heat in them, okay? And that heat, basic fundamental science, creates far more energy, far more evaporation. So you're getting far more water vapor in the air, which is the driver of these massive rain bombs. They don't call it rainstorms anymore. They call it rain bombs, and different cities around the world have experienced it. And those rain bombs totally overrun whatever drainage systems you have, let alone in places like we have in so many locations in Nigeria where the drainage systems are not even that effective anyway. You get massive amounts of rain. It's been recorded in the UK, in America, in different countries of the world, where you can get rain that would fall in a period of maybe 2 months, falling in one day. And this is just the beginning of the process. Again, more heat, more evaporation, and then more heat in the oceans, more energy. So you're getting massive ocean surges that are coming now, that are on the horizon, that are coming. So we need to get this into our consciousness that, okay, what has driven this? Because we were warned and we ignored the warning. Again, we go back to 2015 in Paris, where everybody even agreed. They agreed. They signed ratifications. Our president went to America in 2016 and we signed on the dotted line that we would reduce these global warming gases. And by 2022, 2023, the amount of gases, just CO2 alone, had never ever been so high. Coming from 280 parts per million before the Industrial Revolution 150 years ago, now hitting 400 parts per million. And that's after agreeing to reduce it. So what is now necessary is a renewal of our minds, a refreshing of our consciousness to appreciate that, okay, we can't continue this way. We have to change. We can't be driven so much by the sense gratification. We can't be driven so much by those things that will bring satisfaction to the flesh, satisfaction to the ego, to the pride. We have to be driven by those things that will bring care to each other, care and consideration. And for this, we can look into scripture. Like in Nigeria, the two main scriptures that we have, the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran, are very clear, you know. Love your neighbor as yourself. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. And we need to activate this seriously and remove the hypocrisy. How can you say that you're loving your neighbor and you're destroying your neighbor's life support system? How can you say peace be unto you and you're causing a situation that will cause terrible chaos and catastrophe? So it's a turning point, and I'm very, very optimistic, especially for Nigeria, because we're a God-believing and to a great extent a God-fearing nation. And once this philosophy of creation care can be put across effectively from the various pulpits, I think we're going to see the necessary changes, the necessary renewal of our minds that will persuade us to now adopt the right attitudes towards this miracle of creation that we call planet Earth.
All right, the effects of climate change is already having its effect on natural resources such as food and water. And then the plan to put the world on a path that will bring about nature-based solutions. And there's some nature-based solutions that should be looked at that will help the world recover from some of these effects.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, definitely. First of all, we have to, as we said earlier, as we've referred to, you know, stop the pollution. We really, really got to fast track it. Difficult for Nigeria because so much of our economy is dependent almost entirely on those products. But again, don't burn them, utilize them more responsibly for other ways. Okay, but the nature-based, it's all there. It's all there. And this is again the manifestation of the wonderful miracle of creation. I mean, when you see a green leaf, it's quite amazing. In our Lufasi Park, just after Aja, we have a lot of people come in, and by the time they just enter the park, because it's a little spot of original forest there, they start feeling refreshed. They say, "Oh, the air is so fresh, such a lovely atmosphere here." And they enjoy it. And in fact, the problem we have is a lot of them don't want to leave in the evening because they're breathing in the fresh air. And we share it with them that, well, all these green leaves you see, what are they doing? They're giving you your most essential commodity, without which you can't survive for 10 minutes. Nobody can hold their breath for 10 or 15 minutes because you need the oxygen. And then you just meditate on the wonderful intricacy of the system, that these leaves can actually absorb our emitted carbon dioxide every time we breathe it out. And with the use of the sun's forces, they convert it into oxygen and emit it. And that is nature's way of providing the natural solution. Massive amounts of reforestation and protecting the forests that we have and holding them sacrosanct, because not only are they giving us the oxygen, not only are they absorbing this excessive carbon dioxide that comes from burning the fossil fuel, they're also doing wonderful things in terms of helping the rain process to continue. They're almost like rain relay racers. They pass on the rain, they absorb the water that falls as rain through their roots, and then it goes through a transvaporation process, and then it's emitted as water vapor, goes back into the atmosphere, is blown further down, and falls again as rain. They serve a wonderful, wonderful process. And that's just part of what they do. How about soil stabilization? How about food? How about medicine and so on? So yeah, reforestation and protecting our forests. And here again, we need to be alert, because we're not. Nigeria has one of the fastest rates of deforestation in the world. As we're talking now, there's several locations around the country that have been massively deforested. In Cross River State, we've got very clear evidence of logging that's going on within a forest reserve area. As we're talking right now in Ibadan, there's a small forest that has been is being brought down. So yeah, there has to be a change of attitude. But the natural system is the reforestation and protecting of the forest. We need to plant, hundreds and hundreds of millions of trees. The Chinese are actually doing that. They have deployed their military. So the army, Chinese army, are planting trees. And we are working on at least trying to persuade our youth service corps to get involved in that in a very, very big way, because it has to be done. It has to be done. It's an essential part of our life support system. So yeah, that's the natural way. It's a good question. But again, we have to decide that we're going to do it, no matter what it costs.
All right, now let's look at the impact of urbanization on climate change. There are those who argue that urbanization is a necessity due to the fact that human nature will keep evolving. Several activities will have to take place. But how do we strike a balance between the impact of urbanization and then protecting the ecosystem to ensure that you have a proper arrangement so that climate change wouldn't be an issue of difficulty?
Yeah, well, we just have to, get it through our skulls that we're not here to change the climate. It's because of the climate that we have that we are able to be here. So I don't want to call it stupidity. I would just say it's, ignorance, and a self-embraced ignorance in a lot of ways, rationalizing, getting caught up, misidentification of who we actually are. We're we're here as custodians of creation. And it's again, scripture is very, very clear in scripture. In the Holy Quran, we're, caliphs, we're stewards of nature. The scripture I'm a lot more familiar with is the Holy Bible, which, right at the beginning of scripture, it says that we're put here to care for the place. And we're admonished that we should replenish. So it's grossly hypocritical that you can go to a place of worship and you can worship the Creator and profess, God, I love you. And the God you're professing to love has told you that you are a steward of his creation, which is your life support system. He's told you to love your neighbor as yourself. And who's your closest neighbor? It's your child. And you're saying, God, I love you. I'm loving my neighbor. And you're destroying their life support system by triggering off this climate change. You see, there's still a bit of ignorance there because people are refusing to accept the reality of what the scientists are telling them. And this, these scientists, come on, it's because of modern science we're able to communicate so readily like this. And they have far more sophisticated instruments that are measuring this climate change, measuring it, and looking at the consequences of it. And they are panicking. They are telling us we only have another 10, maybe 15 years to stop the pollution. Because once we go over the 1.5 degrees above average temperature that we're heading towards, and we start hitting 2 degrees, by the time we hit that, we're going to trigger off things. I mean, just one of the, two of the several examples of what gets triggered off. The massive Arctic regions, okay? Massive ice caps, huge, okay? And the ice is white, so it is also deflecting a lot of the heat that comes in. A lot of the infrared, it gets deflected. But because of the global warming, the warming of the ocean, ice caps are melting, okay? So you're having less reflection of the heat. You're having more melt, less reflection, and we're almost on the cusp of triggering off an unstoppable reaction, whereby if human beings just stopped everything that they were doing that's causing the global warming, which is causing the climate change, it doesn't matter because we already triggered off an unstoppable reaction in those Arctic regions, whereby there's less reflection, so there's more heat, less reflection, more heat, and it melts. And then also with some of the major forests of the world, already the Amazon forest and even the Congo Basin forest, which are two of the major forests of the world, they are solely portions of them are now reflecting more. So yeah, problem. So we just got to wake up to the reality. Do we really love our God? Don't be hypocritical about saying, God, we love you, and you're wrecking your system. And for God's sake, love your children and look after their very life support system.
All right, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we need to go on this breakdown. We'll still have you with us, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Desmond.
There's been a lot of fundraise, especially in the tech environment in Nigeria. And there's every need to be cautious, not to think that the fundraise itself is the end point. It's a means to an end. If the job is 100%, the fundraise is just 20. There's still 80% to go. So what you certainly do not do is to raise funds and shortly thereafter go onto social media and brag about the brand new car you bought or the apartment you've moved into in Banana Island. It doesn't make for good optics. And unfortunately, when you really need the benefit of doubt, you might not get it from your investors. You don't raise money and then ask So what should I do with the money? At that time, it's too late. You've lost the plot. When you raise money, you would have raised it based on the back of an agreement with your investor, clearly outlining how the money will be spent and how the returns will come. It's imperative to stick to that plan. And if anything changes in the environment or in the business and you have to pivot or there's going to be a significant change, it's imperative to then get the buy-in of the investor. The investors are not philanthropists. This is what we need to understand. They are not giving grants. The investors are astute businessmen who are not necessarily content with the normal rate of returns of placing money in the bank or buying bonds. And that's why they take the risk of putting their funds in a risky venture, such as a startup, which has no track record. What we have to bear in mind is that when the investor gives you any amount of money to invest in the business, come rain or shine, he will typically ask you for 3 times of that in 5 years. So let's do the math. Let's say that I took $1 million as a raise from an investor in, say, 2015, when the dollar was 200 naira per dollar. 5 years on, in 2020, I will be expected to return to that investor $3 million. $3 million in 2020 at 440 per dollar is about 1.32 billion naira. Now, if you keep the money for longer, then it's even getting more tricky because the exchange rate is falling and you have to do more to pay back. Let's put that figure aside. Bear it in mind, 1.32 billion. If I had approached the bank in 2015 to borrow the same amount of $1 million, at that time it was 200 million naira. So I borrowed 200 million naira. Interest rate is 20%. In 5 years, that's another 200 naira. So what I'll return to the bank will be 200 naira interest plus 200 million naira that I borrowed. I'll be returning 400 million naira. And then compare this in the same period with someone who raised money and has to return 1.32 billion naira. This gives you a sense when I say that raising the money is just the tip of the iceberg. If your business has not reached an inflection point, if your business has not proved this concept, then venture capital money may not necessarily be for you unless there is a match, which means you are earning in the currency that you borrowed in. So you borrowed in dollars and then you are earning in dollars. Or you have what we call a forward contract with a bank to hedge against exchange loss, if it is available. But if not, then you take VC money when you have captured the cost of building the business such that any additional customer is a contribution margin. In that case, it makes sense to scale very quickly because every customer is adding to the bottom line.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, it's important for us to advance development, and that's why we're looking at the issue of climate change as part of the key points on the ongoing, World Economic Forum taking place in Davos. We still have our special guest with us, Desmond Majakudumi, is still here with us. Glad to know you're still there with us, Desmond.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. As an expert in this area, I would like you to talk about some of the critical steps you think African countries need to take this year, looking at the significance of the conversation around climate change. Talk to us, what are some of the critical steps, the action plans, especially looking at a country like Nigeria, that the federal government, just like every other country, needs to take in this crucial time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the major steps that we must take is to unify ourselves. We need to come together. In Nigeria, definitely, there's far too much lack of unity. We need to come together as one body. I mean, okay, look at the human body. Can you imagine, when your right leg is going forward and your left leg is going sideways and your hand, you won't make much progress. And this wonderful country called Nigeria, I'm so proud to be a citizen of Nigeria. And I can just share with you that I have the option of being an American citizen because of my late wife's nationality. I could be a British citizen because of my late mother's nationality. But till today, I have only one passport, only one citizenship, and that is my Nigerian citizenship. Because I believe in my heart of hearts that this country, Nigeria, because of all the tremendous capabilities and capacities that she has, is going to rise and astound the whole world. And one of those capacities, one of the things that makes this country so great is her ethnic varieties. Nigeria has more ethnic variety than just about any other country in the whole world. And it brings little nuances, it brings little flavors into the mix. It's like, having a real jollof rice. Or can you imagine on the other part of it, can you imagine a jollof rice with only rice and palm oil? Come on. So we have this wonderful gift of multiple ethnicities, but we need to pull ourselves together and stand as one great nation. After all, this country is the giant of Africa. And then once we are unified, we can now galvanize the subcontinent to also be unified. So we have a unified West Africa speaking to the outside world with one voice. And one of the major declarations we shall be making is that the industrialized world, you need to sink funds into Africa. You need to bring big money into Africa so that we can be able to more readily adapt to this climate change problem, which was mainly caused by you, industrialized world, fast-tracking your way in a very irresponsible manner into industrialization. And this irresponsibility of the manner that you use to fast track your way is now impacting negatively on us in Africa, but also on you. So we're all on this planet Earth together, but we must move together as one people, but you industrialize will bring out the money to help us to fast track our adaptation and also to be able to do the mitigation so we can really, really mitigate against the problem. So we have to adapt quickly. Okay, so unity, 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 that is the silver lining on the dark cloud, because there's no other way. If we can't come together as one people in Nigeria, as one people in West Africa, and eventually as one global people, if we cannot come together, we will not be able to solve this problem properly. And I'm hopeful that organizations like yours that are riding on this wonderful technology will be able to galvanize that move of humanity coming together to save our planet and to save our future, the future of our children and our children's children. Unity, that's the key.
All right, let me take you away from climate change corely, not totally away from it, but connected. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is expected to visit 4 countries in Africa, beginning from the 21st to 26th of January this year. And in the course of the visit, he will be highlighting how the U.S. has accelerated partnership with Africa since the U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit in areas such as climate, food, and health security. And coincidentally, one of the key areas that Davos conference focused on this year was achieving security and cooperation in a fractured world. Now, along those lines, what should Nigeria be looking at in terms of cooperation or cooperating with the U.S., taking advantage of the visit of the U.S. Secretary of State?
Yes, well, Nigeria has to let them know that U.S. is the giant of the Southern American area. We, Nigeria, we're the giant of Africa. And we have all it takes to really lead Africa forward. I mean, it's in the various mineral resources. And we also have a lot of mineral resources that are going to be or are already useful to the United States economy. And apart from that, even though it's still at a fairly fledgling stage, we are a democratic nation. And we will grow rapidly in the establishment of our democratic institution. And so it is very, very auspicious for the United States to support Nigeria, because we can bring great stability to the West African sub-region by insisting that our democratic systems will be improved. It's a fledgling, but sometimes the fledgling can rise very quickly. And we are of the belief that, again, with the aid of modern technology and the enthusiasm of the young people, that the democratic system that we are working with here will be far more effective as we move into the future. Especially that we're now seeing an interesting development in, for want of another expression, in the spiritual realm. Although this also manifests itself in the physical, and that is the reality that action begets reaction. There's a process of retributive activity, or call it even retributive justice, that seems to be unraveling now. And we're already seeing some of it in the early stages of our politics. We're seeing some of it. And the belief is that this is going to accelerate very rapidly. We're seeing it again in the physical with the climate. You know, we're giving onto nature all types of despoliation and negativity, and she's giving it back to us. What you sow, is what you reap. And I believe that this is going to be one of the processes by which this great country, great territory called the Niger area, this is going to be one of the processes by which she will jumpstart our evolution into being a world leader. Because when people who are making major decisions that can affect millions of people, and if those decisions are made out of selfish desires and the effect is negative on those people, then the decision makers themselves will be impacted by the negativity that they have put across to those people. And of course, the opposite also pertains. If they make decisions that are going to be good and beneficial for the people, then they get blessed. There's something going on, and we've seen a little hint of it just in the last couple of weeks in the political arena. Very, very interesting. So yes, it's definitely worthwhile for America to ensure that she consolidates the good relationship that she has with Nigeria, and also, sorts her own issues out as well. Our own democratic system still needs to be improved, definitely. And the reorientation of her people away from this gun violence issue that is racking various parts of her nation. So she has some things to learn and to develop as well. But it's a healthy move, and let's hope that they use it effectively.
All right, it's interesting to know that you said it's going to be a healthy move. And so with that, we want to thank you for your time. We just need to let you go now. And we must thank you for your thoughts, creating time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation with us. Desmond Majakodumi, thank you for your time on NXT this morning.
My pleasure.
All right, like we always say, early exchange will always get bigger and better, just to let our viewer understand that the only constant thing in life is change. The last segment of this program is going to focus on global trends, and that's the new initiative coming into the program, and it's important you get used to it. We'll be looking at, news that are trending across the globe and Nigeria, and that will take the last segment of the program. Joining us on set now is our in-house analyst. We have Dr. Idauza Osamazi to help us review some of the stories trending globally. Dr. Idauza, glad to have you join us once again.
Femi, good morning. Blessing, good morning.
All right, we started the discussion with Desmond, Majakodumi, where he was talking about the visit of the U.S. Secretary of State to Nigeria. Not just Nigeria, 4 countries, Ivory Coast, Angola, and Cape Verde. If you look at the relationship between U.S. and Africa, an offshoot of the last summit that was held in 2022, the African-U.S. Summit. Now, how significant, or what do you think would be the impact of this visit to this African countries, most importantly to Nigeria?
Yeah, for me, I don't see any significance in Blinken coming to Nigeria at the twilight of the administration, especially when the rating, as we speak in the U.S., for their government is very low. So for me, this is a political visit, and that's the way I see it. You see, this is the way Americans do their politics, to make us feel as if we are important as it's coming to election year. And so we need more of African votes, and we need African to rally around their politics and get a whole lot of support for them.
But I think this is beyond politics. Don't look at it.
You see,
look at the partnership.
There's no partnership. If there's any, this is the 4th year of Joe Biden, and you understand, the 3rd year running to the 4th year. So election is this year, and the administration is timing out. If you value Africa, you should factor Africa into your policy at the beginning of your regime. And that's the only way for us to be able to see and then be hopeful that as they are coming, they are going to tie Africa into this. I'm not sure that even the Democrats are thinking that with what is happening around, and if you follow the opinion poll trend in the U.S., and you see
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruboje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we sincerely apologize for that interruption, but we're still here, still Early Exchange, and we're looking at the visit of the U.S. Secretary of State to Nigeria and other countries. And we still have our in-house analyst with us, Dr. Idahosa Osamanze. So earlier you were talking about, I asked the question as regards the significance of this visit, and you talked about the political angle to it, which I don't agree, but it's your opinion, because I feel Africa is one of, in fact, not just one, it's the largest trading partner with the U.S. So why do you just think it's just political? It can also be business-like, to cement or strengthen the relationship, the business relationship.
That is the point that I'm making. You see, government, as it were, in the U.S. is not like a continuum like people expect. You can imagine what all the things that Trump put in place while he was in government. Once Joe Biden came, all those things were not working. Those agreements didn't stand. Now, if you're going to sign agreement with an African country, why are you doing it at the twilight of your administration when you are not even sure you are going to win the next election? This, for me, is a conversation, and I think this is where we are also going to appraise some of all these issues that, yes, the Secretary of State visits, he can come to Nigeria and we have those talk shop and go. How will it significantly affect Africa? That's the point I'm making. For them, it could be a positive for them because you have a lot of Nigeria as most enlightened people and saying, oh, you are not committed to Nigeria, you are not committed to Africa, and now you are going to go back to them and ask them for their vote. It's very easy for you to use this platform of this visit to pacify the Nigerian voting public in America to vote for your party, as it were. So for me, there's no significance of these things to Africa. You see, if it was 2 years ago or last year even, we can be talking about significance. So this is what the Americans had done over years. There are a whole lot of areas where America can be of help to Nigeria. Take, for example, even in the area of data sharing. They have information about the crisis we are facing, but they've not shared with us. So these are the partnerships that you are talking about. Yeah, the government of America, but Nigeria could seek partnership with businesses in America. So what are we looking at? America is only concerned about their own interest within your interest. And I advocate this level playing field where, of course, there's mutual respect for countries and continents. And I also of the opinion that Africans should not be beggars in international diplomacy or looking for somebody to come from somewhere to come and help you. The solution is in our hands. And all we need to do is to prove that point that African has the key to his problem and not necessarily looking for any world power to come and bail you out.
But don't you think this visit will further strengthen investors' confidence? There are people who assume that, okay, Nigeria is battling with the issue of insecurity, and they assume, the killings are taking place virtually everywhere. But if the visit could, if it comes to Nigeria, it's a way to also let people know that, yeah, certain areas or Nigeria or certain places in Nigeria are still secured, unlike the perception some people have that, okay, virtually everywhere in Nigeria is not secure. Don't you think that will be of impact as well?
Well, what are we talking about? Before blinking will come, Nigerian stock exchange market has been rated the best globally, beating Argentina with over 90,000 points. So investors already have confidence in what we're doing. And that's where those who are home will need to provide real genuine leadership. But my feel here is the fact that if you're going into partnership with people, you are not going empty-handed. You must also be able to show that you are doing something significantly very well. And I like the phrase that the vice president used at the recently concluded Davos meeting, that we should carry our poverty with dignity. That phrase resonates with me very well.
That's not possible. How do you carry poverty with dignity?
Yes, of course, you are not begging. And you are living within your means, and you are cutting your coat according to your cloth. That's what it is. So you have respect for yourself. So Africa needs to carry respect. It's not one foreign secretary coming to Nigeria, even if it's Joe Biden coming to Nigeria himself, who can actually use his green pen to sign up paper. It would be a different ballgame. Just sending a secretary to come to Nigeria is not something we should celebrate. As a matter of fact.
You seem to have dismissed the significance of this.
Completely. I don't see any significance in it because it's too close to the election in America, and the rating of the Democrats in America is so low, all year low, and therefore he knows that is a significant need of votes. That's my conclusion.
Aren't you seeing this just from one side, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what significance it will bring. Because if he loses the election at the coming election, so what will this mean? Nothing.
Well, he's coming to visit not just Nigeria. There are 4 countries that.
That's what I'm saying to you.
So is it the same thing or the same target for Nigeria as it is for other African countries?
Yeah. There's a whole lot that we as a people must understand about international diplomacy. Yes, you're just not coming to Nigeria. You have to design it as if it's an African interest. This is, for me, where the challenge is for us to even see that people are packaging something for you, and you are looking at this package and you are seeing as if it's a good gift for you. I don't see any significance in this visit, particularly, especially because it's too close to the election year. That is all. So if it were something that were genuinely intentioned, the visit should be before now. The conversation should be before now. There are a lot of things that we can talk about in terms of relationship, access to market. These are things that we can talk about. We need their support because they have higher technology to assist you with data, and especially in the area of fighting insecurity in Nigeria. But they have not provided any. So we need to see this good gesture presented. Not just a man who's coming to negotiate on behalf of his own government, and we are all thinking that they are going to bring all that we need, that will take us out of where we are. So my own problem is that the key to our solution is in our hand. It's just to let those people who are in government realize that, look, we have to do things well. That if governance is put in place in Nigeria, for example, if we prioritize the nation, those people will be coming to beg us for support and not the other way around.
All right, let's move away from that. The UNDP is giving $1 billion innovation fund for African startups, particularly those in the IT sector. Now, how can Africans position themselves for this, and to what should we use this for?
Yeah, that's good development. UNDP, $1 billion to 1.3 billion people.
Startups.
How are we cutting it?
It's for startups.
For the 56 countries of Africa. Who is getting what, when and how? Also, we also look at this. It's good that they are encouraging us, and that is important for every businessman to do. Really, you know, you created a product, and then you need to train people who are able to help you maintain it. And this, for me, is what it is. Yes, startup fund coming to Africa. How is it going to be implemented? Who is going to apply what? We should be wary of these Western support, honestly speaking.
Is it about the Western support or what it will be channeled into? Now, this specifically is for innovation. Now, what kinds of innovation should be birthed from a fund like this?
Yeah, when you are talking innovation, innovation is a concept that tells you that a new way to do things. Okay? You are doing something differently, whether it's in farming, whether it's in technology, whether it's in services. And so you are looking for a new way to do things. So when you're talking innovation, innovation can happen in several areas. It can even be in the creative arts. So the question is, what exactly, in which area is this innovation targeted? Because it's not I don't fancy throwing money at a problem, because it never solves any problem. When you throw money at a problem, it doesn't solve problem. You see, money becomes very important when you are seeing creative people with creative energy who have done some great designs, and then they are looking for fund to support all these things. So then, of course, it can become meaningful. That we have a prototype of a phone, and then somebody is giving you money to commercialize it. It can be seen as something good. But when you look at what these guys are taking away from Africa, what they are taking away from Africa, and this thing they call assistance that they are bringing, it will just be fair for them to deal with us fairly, so we can generate our resources and solve our problem. Fairness in terms of trade, in terms of participation. So all these issues is, for me, what should be dealt with. Yeah, they keep counting that they are throwing money into Africa and the money is not yielding the results, because in the first place, I don't even think that the design is to create solution or results in African countries.
All right, when you talk, like you're rightly saying, when you talk about funds like this, the general concern has to be the fact that, will this achieve the intended purpose? I remember the guest we spoke with yesterday talked about, some political SMEs, political small business owners, that this kind of fund usually channel towards them rather than the real players in the sector. What can be done this time around? Because the truth is, the startup, they need this kind of empowerment. I don't think they are throwing money at them, but it's a form of empowerment for them to also solve problems. So what can be done differently this time around to ensure that these startups, they get the money and then they provide the right solution that can drive a better society?
I think what we need to do first and foremost is for Africans to firstly reinvent themselves in terms of value. And until we reinvent ourselves in terms of value, you see, it's like sweeping dirt under the carpet. You have not removed it. So when these funds keep coming in, those who are privileged take advantage of these funds. And it really not get to the people who are really deeply very creative. And that is it, because of course we're a sovereign state. A cousin of mine told me a story in Lagos recently. One of the very respected member of REP was doing empowerment for some people in his constituency, and was to train them for 3 days and give them 100,000 for startup. 800 people. And that cousin of mine told me, because he benefited. Now the question is that you need to ask him, did he really go for that program? No. And he told me, somebody just came and said, guys, something there. You attend this thing, 3 days they give you 100K, 40K is our own, 60K is your own. So a well-intentioned program is meeting with this kind of hiccup. There are real people who genuinely need this 100,000 for a small startup. But those real people, you can't see them. Because the political jobbers know how to aggregate people and then share the money between themselves and those people. And then they move ahead with life. So until we have to deal with the value issue in our environment, to be sure that when people are giving us resource, that we are actually using that resource for the purpose for which it is meant. And that is a real starting point. And I think this is where, for me, we need this African Renaissance, a reinvention of the value system for both who are the leaders and those that are led. That at both fronts, we are driven by high ethics, morality, and then, of course, compassion for one another. And that when resources are coming into the environment, it is getting to the right hand, and then the right values or appropriate values are added to the system. My take.
Now, let's look at the next story, talking about the federal government giving approval to increase in electricity tariffs. And the indication is that electricity subsidy, we are back there. Subsidy is back in the subject, it's going to go up a sum of 1.6 trillion in the year 2024. What's the reaction to this?
Very negative.
Why negative?
You see, there's so much theorization in our space. If we're talking about subsidy, what are we really subsidizing in electricity? Except that we are funding some people who keep telling us stories upon stories that are not implementable. We remember when Fashola was the Minister of Power, there was a marching order that if your house is not metered, don't pay electricity. Is it working? Why is this code refusing to meter people? This is a question that has to be settled. Let every houses be metered, and then we know what exactly people are consuming. Then we can know the inputs that come into it. And not people sitting down in the air-conditioned office and say, oh, this is our subsidy we are paying, and this is amounting to 1.3 trillion. This is the issue. Still boiled down to the issue of values. That people are just coming and saying, oh, we have a handicap. Everybody in Nigeria has a handicap, and therefore government must find something to solve handicap. Let the houses, the whole houses in Nigeria be metered, then remove whatever you call subsidy, so that people can take electricity the way they want it. And if we have not succeeded in doing this, and we are using ourselves to compare to societies that are getting 24-hour lights without blinking. And you are having community that has been 6 months, no electricity. Some get electricity 2 days before the month end so that they can share bill. And it's happening in this country. So these are the issues we have to tackle to actually be sure that these schools that are sharing estimated billings everywhere are themselves not the people who are talking about subsidy. Since over 5 years ago that this thing came into their hand, what are new additional thing had this school added to the infrastructure in electricity distribution and supply? Almost none.
My name is Dr. Agility Obi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Agility Obi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, sorry for that interruption. We're still talking about the issue of the plan, the approval for increasing electricity tariff. So please go ahead with your
Yeah, the point I'm making is that it is for DISCO to first of all supply electricity to people. So when electricity is supplied, we can be talking about the tariff.
All right.
As of today, we don't have electricity.
Now the next approves the tariff. Shouldn't be on both sides. If you're approving tariff based on current economic realities, should it not also be balanced to ensure that DISCOs supply power that is commensurate with the new tariff?
This is not the first time tariff is increased. We have had this argument over the years, and it has never added value to the electricity supply. This is the issue. We have always had this argument. We need to improve cost of electricity, and then we value them in dollars. And we forget quickly that if American is selling electricity in dollars, because they're also paying their workers in dollars, we forget very quickly what inputs come in. So you cannot be doing international price comparison where the service offering are different, human resource offerings are different, and then you are doing a comparison and say, oh, because they are selling electricity this much in this place, therefore our own should be exactly amount. Are we rendering same service? That's the question. And this is what the people who are asking for tariff increment should be talking about really. But you see, just the president had done, subsidy on petrol ended. Let them take it away completely. So people can begin to look for alternative and options. So that if there's no light, then there'll be no billing. But if this tariff, those who are approving the increment of tariff should also go back to DISCO to say, don't collect money from those who are not metered. That there'll be no estimated billing. So that nobody is cheated.
All right, before we go, let's take one last look at the story where the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashif Shettima, was saying in response to the World Economic Forum that Nigeria will be participating fully in global value chains. Now, is that feasible, and what should be the concentration as Nigeria prepares to participate fully in global value chains? Do we have an advantage in a particular area?
No, but I think the point that our very respected Kashima alluded to was the fact that Africa need to compete, and in the area where we should have a comparative advantage was in agriculture. And of course, we have not so much different the way we do agriculture today as we were doing it 100 years ago, still whole and cutlass kind of farming. And that's what we are still doing. And that if we must contribute to global economy, where we currently have a combined GDP of about 3.4 trillion, with a population of about 1.3 trillion, and the youngest demography globally, using Nigeria as a sample with an average age of 19, that there's so much we can do in that area. That we don't even need to focus on the high-end technology. That we can focus, African countries can focus on the, intermediate technology. At least to take energy away from this whole and cutlass that is demotivating young people from going into farming. And once you do that, and given the population that you have, that you're going to see that there's going to be a turnaround on Africans' contribution to the global GDP.
Okay, this is where we'll draw the curtain today on Early Exchange. Thank you very much, Dausa Samanze, for being with us on the show today. And it's a way to wrap it up for the week. Thank God it's Friday. For those who are already looking into plans for the weekend, be sure to catch enough rest that will last you through another 1 week. And you can catch the previous episode of Early Exchange through the week from Monday till now. We'll be talking about the Davos conference. Just go to our YouTube channel and feel free to watch. You can also drop your comment because the conversation has not ended. You're free to share your contribution. I'm Blessing AEG. Thank you for watching. Early Exchange returns Monday, 8 a.m. West African time. Femi.
All right, don't forget Market Insight also will come up at 11. You also need to be part of that because it's also part of the conversations going to look at the trends in markets and issues related to business in Africa and globally. I am Femi Ayodele. Enjoy your weekend.
Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo, and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo, and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
It's news update, and I am Grace Komolafe. Biden administration, in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Energy, has finalized a $1.1 billion credit agreement with Pacific Gas and Electric Company under the Civil Nuclear Credit Program for the Diablo Canyon Power Plant in California. Funded by President Biden's partisan infrastructure law, the program aims to sustain safe and reliable nuclear energy facilities, supporting clean energy jobs and preventing carbon emission. This move aligns with the president's goal of achieving 100% clean electricity by 2035 and a net zero emission economy by 2050. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the Diablo Canyon power plant, containing 9% of California's total power generation, was initially set to cease operations, but this agreement ensures its continual functionality. Stay tuned for more on news updates. I am Grace Komolafe.